Hi, it's Robin. I've got here a time machine, and I think it's going to let us go back to about 1983 when people who owned VIC-20s were dreaming that they had more RAM. With all those newfangled computers like the Commodore 64, 64K, just having 3.5K of RAM just wasn't cutting it anymore. So this is a very homemade looking RAM expander and cartridge slot expander all in one very frightening looking unit. There's the edge connector that plugs into the back of the VIC-20, and somebody very tediously, but actually rather proficiently, managed to put this connector together. And the ribbon cable runs in here. On the front here, it has a fuse, a reset button, and this unidentified button. I asked my friend Chuck Hutchins about any guesses about that button, and he suggested it might be an NMI button, which is another control line to the CPU. And yep, sure enough, that's what it is. I was able to verify that by testing continuity on one of the pins here. And on this side are switches, one for block 3, which presumably is for the RAM expansion, and over here, external RAM. So just two toggle switches, and here are some rotary switches which go from 1 through 5, and if you move it all the way over here, 6 and 7 become options. And so I think those are the slot select. There do happen to be 7 connectors in here, so I suspect that these are for choosing which slot is active. These would be for extra cartridge slots. You can see the wiring inside. So I asked on Facebook, and Dave Park pointed out the Letraset labels here, which were common in the early 80s. And Terry Miller suggested that the case was previously a ultrasonic cleaner that would have been used for cleaning like clock parts or whatever, and perhaps the case was repurposed for it. I wasn't able to find an identical match, but the way these little vents are cut and so on do suggest that it previously had another purpose such as that. We'll give this a try on the VIC-20 just to see quickly what it does there, and then we'll try opening it up and just take a little bit of a look at the insides. Okay, so I've got my VIC-20 hooked up here. This VIC-20 has Jiffy DOS installed. That's what the switch is for at the side. And I've got my micro IEC SD card reader here. Jiffy DOS is disabled for now, and I've got the expander plugged in. Okay, I'm going to try to turn it on, and I hope no smoke comes out of either the device or out of the VIC-20. Here we go. Well, that's a good sign. So that's the classic VIC boot screen with just 3,583 bytes free. Here I've got the external RAM turned off, and block 3 is also up, which I believe is off. Okay, so we're going to try turning the RAM on, and then I'm going to press the reset button here. And okay, more RAM. 19,967 bytes free. I notice I'm getting a little more interference on the video signal than normal. This thing must be pretty noisy. Okay, so to get the full 24K of RAM that I think this has, the 24K expansion, also enable block 3. Let's see if this works. There. And again, reset. There we go. 28,159 bytes free. So yeah, all 24K is here and appears to be working at least well enough to pass the initial RAM test. So 24K RAM expansion, that was basically the maximum that was ever made for the VIC until recent times. Now I'm also going to try enabling Jiffy DOS here. And again, I'll reset. We'll see if that works. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to go into this VIC directory I have, and there are very few games that make use of 24K, but apparently this Telengard, which is an early RPG, does. Even the file size here, 104 blocks for Telengard, that's about 25K of RAM. So we'll load that up. Let's try running it just as one of the few things that can use this much RAM. Note that there are some modern games that use 32K of RAM, but they won't run on this expander. It's not enough RAM. We'll run. There we go. Welcome to Telengard. Would you like to start a new character? Okay. We'll use those stats. Those are pretty good. My name is Robin. You're now descending into the depths of the Telengard dungeon. Beware. Hit any key. Here we are in the dungeon. Do you want to go up or stay here? Okay, we'll use W to go north. This game is brutally hard, by the way. Hardly ever survive a fight. Let's go west. Oh, there's a treasure. Ah. Treasure just goes away because I didn't hit the right key. This game, strangely, is almost like an action game because it has such short timeouts. Let's go west. Level 4 fighter. I am so dead. Fight. You missed. It does 9 damage. Fight. It does 7 damage. You died. Another not-so-mighty adventurer bites the dust. Do you want to try again? No thanks. And to try out the cartridge expander here, of course we should always power it down. I've got a classic VIC-20 game here, Omega Race. And I was trying this earlier, and actually it's an extremely tight fit. It's not even in the cartridge slot yet. You can see here that it's basically wedged in there between the walls. There's a little bit more room in the first slot, so we'll try that. Okay, it's in. I'll set the dial to 1. Let's try powering it up and see if this works. So I'm going to turn off the external RAM. There we go. Omega Race. I should grab a joystick. Yeah, I've got a joystick plugged in. Oh. Okay, that seems to be working fine. I got another game here called Atlantis by Imagic. And I'm going to put that in slot number 2. Okay, I set the dial to number 2. And there's Atlantis. And that also seems to be working fine. Now what I want to try to do is see if I can switch what happens when I switch on the fly. I'll go to number 1. It crashes the game. I hit reset. Whoop. Okay, now we're in Omega Race. Back to 2. Whoop, that reset. There we go. So, yeah, it works. Also wonder if I hit the NMI button. Oh, just kind of crashes it in a weird way. Let's try that in Omega Race. Nothing happens with the NMI button there. One other thing I wanted to try was running my RAM expander here. This is made by my friend Sam at Dorktronic. This is a 32K RAM expander, just a modern one. So we'll plug this in. Okay, and we're on slot 1. Well, no RAM. I disabled Jiffy DOS, no difference. Change block 3 there. Okay, so I actually experimented quite a bit with this, different slots. I just cannot get it to recognize this RAM expander, but I know it's good. I was just using it in the VIC here. I suspect that the expansion box does not have all the necessary signals to recognize RAM expansion. Maybe that was a deliberate shortcut when building this, because whoever designed this already knew they had the RAM expander in, so what was the point in supporting the extra signals? Okay, so basically it works. It's unfortunately a little bit of a too tight of a fit to fit those Commodore cartridges in the middle slots. I suspect the slot 7, I don't know if you could get anything in there. It's just too tight. But slots 1 through 6 all seem usable. Well, that's pretty good. Okay, so let's open this up and just see if we can learn anything else about it. And 2 screws on each side. Okay, 4 screws are out. And gently. Alright, there's a cable. So there it is, wow. So just to take a look at the inside, this is at the bottom of the unit. So there are 12 identical looking chips here that say Japan 3C3 HM6116P-3. Those are 2K by 8-bit SRAM. So each one is 2 kilobytes. So that's 24K in total. So that adds up nicely. And these chips read 8313, so 13th week of 1983, AO or A0, M74LS 32P. And down here's the ribbon connector. And from the RAM expander, ribbon connector connects up with slot 7. And then all these wires have been jumpered right across here. Almost all these pins are not connected. But I think that's why the RAM expander won't work. There's the block 3 switch, the RAM on and off switch, and there's the rotary switches that choose which slot is active. What a bundle of wires in there. And I don't want to wreck it by pulling it further apart, but you can see it's all wire wrapped to connect all that RAM together there. I think that's all I have to say about this. I mentioned that this may be a time travel machine, so we'll give that one last try. Just going to set it here back to 1983 and plug it in back into itself and give it a switch. Hey, if you haven't subscribed, please do, and you can check out my Patreon link in the description below. Thanks to Chuck and the others who helped with the investigation of this. Definitely check out Chuck's channel. I'll put a link in the description below. Hey, thanks to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Oh, it's back.